Hi everyone, welcome back to episode 8 of season 5 of the Canary Room. We are rattling through the episodes, aren't we? Last time out in the company of Lee Westerman, I tell you what, that crab linguine was off the scale. Absolutely off the scale. Very, very nice. In fact, as the host of the show, I'm getting treated, honestly, incredibly well wherever I go. So I'm delighted at that. As always, thank you to everyone who's donated to the channel. It means an awful lot to me, and it helps me keep doing these things. Still lots of out-of-pocket expenses in doing this, which I don't mind, but it does help. Every little donation that you make really helps. So appreciate that. Really do appreciate it. You can possibly hear there's quite a bit of noise in the Canary Room at the moment. There's quite a lot of noise going on in here. Cox are in good voice, which is great. I must say, coming up, next episode out will be out again next Sunday. So we're doing an episode a week at the moment. I can't sustain that, and I am sorry about that. I'd love to be able to, but I am absolutely chocker, and it's at the moment I'm staying up till midnight to edit the episodes and get them out and make sure. So we will go back to fortnightly very soon, but coming up next time out, we're with Simon Meredith, an hour with Simon Meredith on New Colour Canaries. It is a belter. I know I say it all the time, it's a belter of an episode. We will go again and see Keith. I'm going to go and see Keith in the next week or so to see the birds he's paired up, and then we'll go back and see him later on in the year to see how those pairings went. So something to look forward to there. And a sad moment, really, and a moment of reflection. The flight cages behind me were built by a chap called John Aidney, and we've lost John Aidney recently. So my condolences to John and all of his family. His memory lives on, certainly in these cages in the Canary Room, and I met John briefly when he delivered them, and a real gent. So my apologies, my condolences rather to John and his family. So what have we got on the show today? Well, action-packed. Norwich Notebook, of course. We've put the Norwich hens in their breeding cages. We've got a catch-up with the Fifes. We will do New Colour Corner. They could be the new Red Poles, to be honest. We'll catch up with the Native Diaries as well. And we will have a very quick look at Pairs in Focus. As always, I've remembered it this time. Grab yourself a cuppa, sit back and enjoy the show. It's fair to say it's been a funny old start with the Fifes this time round. And as always in these situations, you know, when everything doesn't quite go to plan, you've got to blame it on the management. So I haven't done anything really very different this year. I've kept more hens. I've added some extra ventilation in the Canary Room to make sure there's a decent throughput, and you can hear the birds are in good condition. Had a really cold spell a couple of weeks ago, and that seems to have triggered a number of hens, young hens, just abandoning. So I'd like to just blame young hens, but I can't, because as we'll see later on in New Colour Corner, a couple of the grey-wing, red-back grey-wings have left their nests as well. So I've had to shuffle things around a little bit, which is always frustrating. We had one nest that was due to hatch, that was dead in shell. So again, whether the hens come off, she's a hen that reared for me last year. The eggs were full, 3 of them were full. And we've got another number of other hens still sort of sitting. So by no means a disaster, but not quite the start that I'd have liked. And I think, you know, I'm always be honest with you on the programme, always be honest with you. I think the important thing with this hobby is that, you know, you see on Instagram, you see on Facebook all the time, people with nests of 5 and 6 and young away, and, you know, they're doing brilliant, and I'm delighted for them. I genuinely am. That's not the experience that I'm having this year. So this year, very early on in the season, I've got hens that are sitting, I've got hens that I know are on full eggs, and I've got eggs that haven't hatched. I've got hens, young hens, that have walked off. So all I've done, put the birds back down, taken nest pans away, put new nest pans in, let them go again. And one of the beauties of starting this early really is that still a season ahead of us, a big season ahead of us. So I've put all of the rings in anticipation, expectation maybe. I put all the rings on the ring holder, so they're all there, ready for the season ahead. So fife-wise, steady, but not spectacular. The weather has changed. It's a little bit chilly today, but it's been bright and the temperature's been into the mid to high teens here, which is great. I've seen a lot of the birds feeding each other, which is another great sign. And some of the hens, which are a little bit further behind, are starting to take an interest into the nest. So again, it's great to see. We have got new life in the canary room. We'll a little bit more of that later because it is one of our pairs in focus, so a little bit more of that later on. But so far with the fifes this year, steady but not a spectacular start. Plenty of eggs, but not yet the hatch rate that I'd like. Now that said, a number of nests aren't due until the next week or so. What I have done this time is I've left some of the eggs. Now, I have been taking them away. I've been putting them to one side. What I've decided to do is just leave them. Now, normally, the hen won't start incubating until the third or fourth egg is laid. So, generally speaking, there's not normally that much of a gap between the chicks. So, I have left them. I've got a couple of hens that have built up that have shown no sign of laying yet. So, they're built, but they haven't laid. And again, with those birds, and I know a number of people have got in touch with me and had a similar challenge with those birds, making sure they've got plenty of calcium, making sure they've got calcium in the soluble variety, making sure they've got oyster shell grit, and making sure that they've got cuttlefish, couldn't find the word, cuttlefish as well. So, patience game with them. Absolute patience game. You know, the number of fifes I've got in here, the number of fife hens, about 30 fife hens this year. So, you know, if across the season I get 3 out of all of them, that's still 90 young. I'd be very happy with that as a number. Very happy indeed. A lot of you will say, Matt, what are you going to do about room? Because lots of cages seem to have birds in, and you're not wrong. You are not wrong. So I've got a bank of cages here. There's a dozen cages here that are empty for the young. I've got one of the flight cages here for the natives as well. So that'll be a nice big flight cage. And we've also got, I mentioned it last time out, we've got a new project coming on in the canary room. So I have been chatting on over the internet with a chap called Sam from Sam One and DTV Plastics and cages and aviaries, and Sam is making me basically 2 flights, and they'll go in the garage. So I talked about it last time out. I've now ordered them, so they're on order, anticipating a May-ish delivery on them. Hopefully come earlier, but we'll see. I know Sam's really, really busy and he's got orders that were before me, so respectful of that. So I am hopeful of getting them in May, and they're going to be 2 custom-built flights. Now they, along with some of the wire cages, I'm going to use as an overspill for this year's young as well. So there will be plenty of room. Speaking of flights, mentioned it earlier in the show. Let's catch up now on the Native Diaries. Well, you might be able to see behind me, you can start to see foliage. I've cleaned the natives out over the weekend, so all the cages are cleaned. I've moved the Norwich hens, which has given me that spare cage. And what that's meant is that I've not put them all in yet, but I've started to put the nest sites in for the various different native birds. I've done it for the bullies to start with. There's 3 pairs of bullies. The hens are picking up the material. I've got cocoa fibre for them. I just bring it into shot here. bit of cocoa fibre for them. That's what the bullies will use. So I'm just pushing that through. I've seen them beaking it. I've seen them playing around. I've seen them go into the nest sites. I've done something a little bit different this year, and I wish I'd done it last year. I didn't think last year, I don't think. I've started the conditioning again of the bullies. So they're getting... I'm making soak seed on a regular basis because there are young in the canary room, and apple, and they absolutely adore the apple. I'm just giving them a slice of apple a couple of times a week just to help bring them on in condition. No live food yet. That will be on order very soon, so I will start to give them some live food as well. Again, that will help them come into condition. But one of the things that I've done this time round is I've fixed the nest sites. They are internal. The bullies like a little bit of privacy, but I've fixed them right by the opening door. So I've covered them over so you can't see, but it just means for access, it should be easier for me to go in and pull the chicks and ring them when I need to. Fingers crossed there will be chicks. So that's what I've done this year. It's still really, really early. I mean, they are showing a little bit of interest, which is great, but at this stage it's just a little bit of interest. So nothing too much to report with on the bullies. The linnets, they're looking in good form actually. No sight for them yet, but again, probably over the weekend I'll pop a sight in for them. I'll put 2 in actually for them. At the moment there's only 1 for the bullies. I will put an extra 1 in there for the bullies so they've got a choice of sites. I'll put 2 in for the linnets. I'll put an external and an internal to give them the option of the 2. And that leaves us then with the red poles. Well, the red poles we can see, we've got a pair up here, we've got a pair up here. Really, I caught these feeding each other, the pair in the far corner. I caught them feeding each other on camera, and we'll have a little look at that now. I have DNA sexed them, so I understand them to be a cock and a hen. But it's nice to see that sort of, that feeding. So they've been together a couple of weeks now. No nest pan in yet, but I will put one with them as well this weekend. And the remaining red poles, I've also separated off now. I have a pair of cobalts in the bottom here, and I've got a spare normal hen, and then there's a split pied cock and a pied hen, a white pied hen in the other cage there. So there's 3 pairs with visual pieds and split pieds, and there's a pair of cobalts. Now the eagle-eyed amongst you, if we get a shot down there, will notice that there's 3 red poles in there and not 2. There is a normal red pole hen in there as well. So I've got 3 in the cage, 2 hens and a cockbird in there for the time being. So I'll put a couple of sites in there. We may get both of the hens down, we may not. I mean, optimally, I'd have them in a bigger flight cage, but for the time being, that's the cage that they are in. And, so far with the natives, so good. Of course, I say so far, so good, and then it comes to the goldfinches, or as I like to call them, the bloody goldfinches. While I was away filming with Simon, I came back, my son Will very kindly looked after the birds. He's very capable human being. So did everything I needed him to do, watered them, fed them, did everything. Came back, I was away probably for 2 nights, but I did the birds on the Friday before I left, and I came back in on the Sunday. So really it was only Saturday that they didn't have my intervention, and Will did them for me then and on the Sunday morning. Came in, Goldie hen, 2-year-old, on the floor. So still waiting to bring the cocks in, but just frustrating, and anyone who keeps Goldies will know. I remember with great affection, good mate of mine, Alan Horey, will always say with Goldies, they're not afraid to die. Heartbreaking, bloody heartbreaking. But he's right, they're not afraid to die. So we've got one. So at the moment, we've got a flight outside, and the way things are going, I don't really want to put a pair of bullies out there, but I may do. The linnets, I might put the linnets out there. I don't really want to take a risk now with the goldies. As I said, if I've had a trio, they'd have gone out there without a shadow of a doubt. Still too early, but I'm now a bit more tempted to keep the goldies in here. Don't know. We'll see. Decisions still to be made on that. I'll chop and change, as you know, throughout the year. So that's it, native-wise, coming into condition nicely. Nothing too much to report at the moment. Just have a little peek while she's off the nest. Nothing hatched there, but it is due any day. So yeah, slow and steady with the natives, just gentle conditioning of them from the natives. Well, let's have a look at our pairs in focus. In the cage behind me here, you can see that the Norwich hens are in, and this is going to be our pair in focus here. It's a pair, a 2-year-old, a 3-year-old black-ringed cockbird that I got in from Keith last year, and an unflighted buff hen that I also got in from Keith. So she's been trimmed, he's been trimmed. They're looking in good form. That'll be one of our pairs. We'll keep an eye out on them. We've already seen one of the bully pairs that we'll focus on. So, you know, looking forward, hopefully, fingers crossed, they'll produce for us. Got a red pole pair that we're going to focus on. When it comes to the clears, well, we've got something a little bit different that I'm going to try now. The clears, you might be able to see here. I will do a shot of it. I've got a clear buff cock, which is one of the foundation birds to all of the clears. It's a really nice bird, this. I bred it. It's a black ring, so I bred it 3 years ago. It's 3-year-old this year. There's a buff cock in here, and there's 2 yellow hens. Now, I put 2 nest sites. It's a double breeding cage. It's something I wouldn't normally do. In fact, I think I've only ever done it once before, and that wasn't with fifes, that was with new colours. But I thought, why not give it a go? You know, I had a spare clear yellow hen, so it's well bred. I thought, why not give it a go? Why not pop it down in there and give it a go? I can divide the cage off if things get a little bit too antsy. I'm pretty sure they won't, but if I need to, I can divide the cage off. So that sort of clear trio is going to be one of our pairs. Now, you remember last time out, we had another trio. We had a heavily variegated yellow cockbird with a couple of buff hens. One of those hens is down on eggs. The other one is still to lay. She's built up, but she hasn't laid yet. And I said at the time I wasn't sure whether one of them was a carrier or not. Well, I'm still not sure. The cage behind us here, the cock and the cinnamon buff hen, have hatched 2 young. Now, at the moment, neither of them have got pink eyes. There are 4 eggs. The other 2 I don't think are going to hatch. They were due to hatch a couple of days ago. They haven't hatched yet. And I think, you know, for whatever reason, I haven't checked them. I don't know whether they're full or not. They look full, but they haven't hatched. So we've got 2 young in there, but just 2. What was fascinating, and it really was, and this is in real time. This is, you can see there's 1 chick already hatched, and this is the 2nd chick hatching. So I managed to catch this on film, and I was delighted. I was like, oh my God, I can't believe it. You know, I will occasionally get birds chipping out, but this is in real time. I think it lasts for about 40 seconds, but you can see the bird hatching here, which for me is wonderful. New life in the room. As I say, it's not a pink eye, so don't know yet whether this fella is the carrier cock or not, but we'll find out soon enough, I'm sure. We'll continue to be patient. One of the things which was a bit of a concern when I looked at the young, the lighter of the 2, which I think is going to be a variegated, it looked like it had a touch of black spot on it. Now, we know all about black spot. It's, you know, it's a bloody awful disease, and it does pop up from time to time. Birds can carry it and breed successfully. It can be a nightmare. I use the grog as a sort of prevention and treatment of it. And you remember from people who watched the Dave Rans episode of the show that if Dave ever sees it in his birds, you know, he'll swap it under another nest. Well, I didn't have another nest to swap it to. What I did do was top up the bird with some of the feeding powder, the hand rearing powder that Shane had gifted me. And pleased to say that seems to have done the job. So there's no evidence of the black spot now. So it seems that has helped. So those are our pairs in focus. First couple of chicks in the canary room. Hopefully the first of many. Fingers crossed. From here, well, let's have a look at the Norwich notebook. Well, I mentioned it earlier in the show. You can probably see behind me that the Norwich hens are now in their cages with their intended mates. Now, there's a couple of the yellow hens. This hen is built here, so she's got a mouthful of nesting material. She started to build in earnest a nest. The hen below, there's a yellow hen here, and the buff cock that we bought in from Keith. The hen's from Keith as well. So there's another pair here. That's a yellow hen I bred last year in the room with a buff cock that we got from Keith. So hopefully we'll see these come on. Now there's a couple which have been together for a few weeks. I moved the hens, trimmed the hens and moved the hens about a week ago, actually 10 days ago. And then the rest of the hens I moved at the weekend just gone. So at this moment in time, you can see the wire dividers are there between them. So the birds are feeding each other, as I've seen them feeding each other, which is a good sign. The white here, which is off the Jones and Roberts partnership, just out of shot. I will get a shot of her. She's actually laid. I noticed when I was looking in the flight that there was an egg on the floor, and I wondered which hen it was that had laid. I'd seen the birds in there squatting, and it was the white. Now, she's laid a subsequent 2 eggs on the floor of the cage. She hasn't had a cock with her yet. You know, unfortunate, but it's one of those things. So she's obviously heading towards condition. I've got 2 buff cocks with the whites. So they're brothers. I bred them last year, both of the buff cocks. And they're out of the yellow cock here that I got from Keith last year. So if you remember that bird, that was a really, really nice bird that Keith let me have. So started with the Norwich. And I say started... you know, we've got a balance to strike with the Norwich because the Fifes and the Grey Wings aren't anywhere where I need them to be to give me some feeding capability. So we haven't got any eggs yet from the Norwich, or not any full eggs, not any laid in a nest. But we'll see how they go. They're looking good. They're all trimmed up. Hens are trimmed, cocks are trimmed. And over the next sort of couple of days or so, I will pull the wire dividers. Just give them a little bit of extra flight room as well. Slightly out of shot here, you can probably see this is our pair in focus in this cage. Just above there, we've got another white hen and another one of the buff cock brothers. And then we've got a little buff hen in here, and then the heavily variegated yellow cock that we got in off the Jones and Roberts partnership. So we'll have a closer look at some of the Norwich. Really, really pleased with them, and you know, delighted to own them, and delighted to have them in the room. I think really, you know, stunning birds. They really are stunning birds to look at and admire. So I don't doubt there'll be heartache with them, but what would the canary room be without any heartache, eh? So I mentioned them earlier in the show as taking over from the Red Wings. The Red Poles, fraudulent slip. Let's have a look at New Colour Corner. Our trip to Simon Meredith was off the scale. Quality of birds that he'd got there, incredible. You'd expect that. The knowledge and the kindness of sharing the knowledge has been, reflective of everyone that we've had on the Canary Room. Absolutely no secrets whatsoever. Happy to talk about everything. And for New Colour enthusiasts, or for canary enthusiasts, or for, in fact, any of you who watch the show, the next episode, just about an hour long, not to be missed. It is incredible. My Grey Wings, well, God love them, is all I can say. God love them. Of course, I don't mean that. I'm being sarcastic. What I mean is, what are they doing to me? If I had hair, I'd have none left. So all 3 Grey Wings had laid. Brilliant. They all laid 3 eggs. Brilliant, I thought. They all looked like they were sitting. Excellent, I thought. Actually, it's nothing to do with the Grey Wings. It's down with the management. I used an opportunity to pop a couple of the Fife eggs under them, and to be honest, that just seemed to distract them. They weren't ready for that. They didn't like that. So that's something for me to keep an eye on later on. You know, they clearly thought, well, we've only laid 3 eggs and there's 5 eggs in the nest now. And they just didn't sit. The old hen, who's on a red ring, so she's 4-year-old, she was brilliant for me last year. She's laid 3. no intention of sitting at all. So I have taken their eggs away and will look to set them. Need to keep an eye on that, obviously, because they're here to do a job for me. So need to just keep an eye on that and see how it goes. So new colour corner. I have got one grey wing down. She is on the nest. She is on eggs. So with any luck, she will rear those to successful completion. There are a couple of fifes in there as well. So they are there primarily to help me with the Norwich, although they are in the room by their own right, because they are a stunning bird. And one of the things that I saw over the time with Simon was just the variety and the finish and the style of new colours, and you can see why they are so appealing and so appealing to the fancy. So next time out, keep an eye on that. So I said it was a quick trip at the beginning. I'm a man of my word. It's a quick trip. I've got a lot of people messaging me at the moment. Please don't get disheartened. You know, talking about, you know, my birds aren't coming into condition. What can I do? What can I do? Just be patient. Honestly, just be patient with them. They will come into condition. The season does last a while. So, you know, if you have a slow start, it's okay. You can always make it up. I've had some years where I've had great years with the birds. I've had other years where I've had really bad years. It happens. And, you know, sometimes there's no rhyme, no reason to it. Look at the things you're doing. Don't try and rush the birds in. Slow and steady always wins. And, you know, I'll probably play this back and try and take my own advice, because it's understandable. We get a little bit impatient. We see things, we hear about other people doing really, really well with their birds and everything else, and it can be tough. It can be really tough. Just keep the faith, keep patient, and you'll be absolutely okay. Well, look, that's all we've got time for today. Don't forget, next episode's out, same time next Sunday. Set the reminder. If you haven't subscribed to the channel, hit the subscription button, hit the notification bell, and anytime a new video comes out, you'll get a notification. Until next time, everyone, take care.